Before we start, Merry Christmas to everyone celebrating today. Wishing you health, peace, and meaningful moments wherever you are in the world. They call her the Queen of the Blues. 29 Blues Music Awards, 1 Grammy, 50 years on stages from Chicago to Europe. But here's what they don't tell you about Queens. For more than a decade before anyone heard Koko Taylor's voice on a record, she was on her knees scrubbing someone else's floors, cleaning someone else's bathrooms, singing someone else's dreams in clubs where she couldn't even get paid. The woman who would become royalty spent years invisible, her power trapped inside a body nobody thought to record. This isn't a story about triumph. This is a story about what it costs to become someone the world finally decides to hear. If this kind of hidden story pulls you in, take a second to like and subscribe to Legends Underrated and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. September 28, 1928, a sharecropper's cabin outside Memphis, Tennessee, Cora Walton enters a world that doesn't want her. Her father works land he'll never own. Her mother tends children in a house with walls that don't keep out the cold. They nicknamed the baby Koko because she loves chocolate, because sweetness is rare, because small joys matter when nothing else is yours. By the time Koko is 2 years old, her mother is gone. Not away, gone. The kind of gone that doesn't come back, that leaves questions children can't ask and fathers can't answer. 6 years later, at 8 years old, Koko watches them bury her father too. Now she's an orphan at an age when most children still believe in safety. 3 more years picking cotton. 3 more years learning that family is whoever takes you in, their home is wherever they let you sleep. 11 years old when the separation comes, siblings scattered to different relatives, different farms, different futures, some of them kind, most of them not. She doesn't talk much about those years after. What gets said is simple: mistreatment, abuse, beatings, no education past 6th grade because fields don't need reading and cotton doesn't care about arithmetic. But there's music, always music. Sundays, gospel and Baptist church choirs where voices rise towards something bigger than suffering. Mondays through Saturdays, blues in the cotton fields. Her oldest brother makes a guitar from hay baling, wire, and nails. Another brother fashions a harmonica from a corn cob. Koko becomes the voice they sing while they work because singing makes the work almost bearable. Almost. At night, when the radio works, she hears B.B. King on WDIA out of Memphis, playing records by Bessie Smith, Memphis Minnie, Muddy Waters. Women with voices that sound like they've survived something. Men who sing like they know what survival costs. Koko is 12, 13, learning that blues isn't just music. Blues is memory. Blues is what you sing when gospel isn't enough, when prayer doesn't reach, when the only testimony that matters is the one you can't speak out loud. By 18, Koko knows 2 things for certain. She will never own the land she works, and she will do anything to leave it behind. His name is Robert Taylor, but everyone calls him Pops. 12 years older, a cotton truck driver with a route through Memphis. He buys her bologna sandwiches. Talks about Chicago like it's heaven on earth. Tells her about a city where black folks can work for wages, live in real houses where you don't have to ask permission just to exist. Koko doesn't need much convincing. She's tired of cotton, tired of heat, tired of white folks' land and white folks' rules and a future that looks exactly like the past. 1952, they leave Tennessee with 35 cents between them and a box of Ritz crackers. No plan beyond the bus ticket, no contacts beyond hope. The kind of migration that happens when staying means dying slow and leaving means maybe dying fast, but at least dying free. When the bus crosses into Illinois and Koko sees Chicago rising up against the skyline, she thinks what tens of thousands of other Southern migrants thought. Good God, this must be heaven. It's not heaven. Heaven doesn't make you scrub floors. Pops gets work at a slaughterhouse. killing animals for wages that barely cover rent. Koko finds domestic work in the wealthy suburbs north of the city. White families with clean houses and dirty laundry, children who need watching and meals that need cooking. She's good at it. Fast, efficient, invisible in the way good domestic workers have to be. But every day on those buses between the north side and the south side, she's thinking about night, thinking about the clubs, thinking about the music she hears on the radio, the legends performing live just blocks from where she sleeps. Weekends, she and Pops go to the south side clubs. Muddy Waters at Silvio's, Howlin' Wolf at Pepper's Lounge, Buddy Guy, Junior Wells, Magic Sam, the royalty of Chicago blues, all playing within walking distance of each other. Koko watches from the audience, nursing drinks they can barely afford, learning every song, memorizing every move. Pops tells the musicians about his wife, tells them little Koko loves to sing, loves the blues, would give anything for a chance. And because Pops is friendly and Koko is persistent, eventually they let her sit in one song at first, Brooke Benton's Make Me Feel Good, Kitty-O, then Tina Turner's I Idolize You. The same two songs over and over because they're the only ones she's confident enough to perform. But even those two songs, sung in small clubs to audiences who came to hear someone else, start to change something. People notice. The guys start to know her name, start to expect her, start to make room. Late 1950s into the early 60s. Koko Taylor is singing regularly with some of the biggest names in Chicago blues, sitting in with Muddy, harmonizing with Wolf, learning from the best living practitioners of an art form most of America has already decided to forget. She has the voice. Everyone says so. Powerful, rough, commanding, the kind of voice that doesn't ask for attention, that takes it. But nobody records her. Nobody offers her a contract. Nobody seems to think a woman with that much power is worth capturing on tape. Years pass this way, working, singing, waiting, days on her knees scrubbing, nights on her feet performing, always for other people, always on someone else's stage, someone else's schedule, someone else's terms. The question starts to form, the one that doesn't have an easy answer. If everyone knows you can sing, if everyone makes space for you, if the legends themselves invite you to share their microphone, why are you still cleaning houses? Why are you still invisible? 1962. Willie Dixon walks into a Southside club and hears something he's been looking for without knowing it. He's already a legend by then. Bassist, songwriter, producer, the man who wrote Hoochie Coochie Man for Muddy Waters, My Babe for Little Walter, Spoonful for Howlin' Wolf, Chess Records' Secret Weapon, the architect of the Chicago blues sound. He knows what sells, he knows what lasts, and when he hears Koko Taylor sing, he knows he's found something rare. Not just the power, plenty of singers have power. It's the texture, the grain, the way her voice sounds like it's been weathered by something bigger than technique, shaped by something closer to survival. Dixon approaches her after the set, tells her she's got the right voice for the blues, tells her he can get her into Chess Records, tells her to be ready. Next day, he takes her to Leonard Chess himself. Chess listens, nods, tells Dixon to work with her, get her ready for recording, and just like that, after more than a decade of singing for free, Koko Taylor has a contract. June 30th, 1964, first session at Chess. What Kind of Man Is This? Not a hit, but a start. Proof that she can do this, that the voice translates to tape. Dixon keeps working with her, keeps writing, keeps pushing for the song that will break through. He's already tried a particular number twice before. Once in 1954 with a group called the L Rays, once in 1960 with Howlin' Wolf. Neither version caught fire. But Dixon believes in this song, believes in its energy, its characters, its promise of a party so wild it requires an invitation list. He's just been waiting for the right voice. December 7th, 1965. Chess Studios, Chicago. Dixon brings Koko back in with a full band. Gene Barge on saxophone, Lafayette Leak on piano, Buddy Guy on guitar, Fred Below on drums, Dixon himself on bass, singing backup vocals with Koko. They cut Wang Dang Doodle in one session. The song is absurd on paper, a roster of impossible characters with ridiculous names. Automatic Slim, Razor Toting Jim, Butcher Knife Toting Annie, Fast Talking Fanny, an invitation to picture Wang Dang Doodle all night long. But when Koko sings it, the absurdity becomes something else, becomes joy, becomes power, becomes a woman who spent too many years invisible, finally demanding that you pay attention. If you're realizing this story is bigger than you thought, hit that like button and subscribe to Legends Underrated, because what happens next changes everything. Spring 1966, Wang Dang Doodle was released as a single. Within weeks, it's climbing charts. By the time it peaks, it's number 4 on the Billboard R&B chart, number 58 on the pop chart, gold record, million copies sold. Koko Taylor, at 37 years old, finally has the hit that should have come 15 years earlier. Chess Records' last blues single to make the top 10 R&B, the final gasp of Chicago blues before soul and rock took over completely. The song that saved Chess becomes the song that proves Chess's time is over. But for Koko, it's everything. Suddenly she's not scrubbing floors. She's touring. She's headlining. She's the name on the marquee instead of the voice in the background. Wang Dang Doodle becomes her signature, the song audiences demand, the one that never gets old no matter how many times she performs it. For the next 43 years, until her very last performance, she will close shows with this song. We'll watch audiences sing along to every word. We'll feel what it's like to be someone people came specifically to hear. Chess keeps recording her. 2 albums, more singles. None of them match Wang Dang Doodle. The industry is changing too fast. The black audience that sustained blues is moving toward Motown, toward soul, towards sounds that promise the future instead of honoring the past. By the early 70s, Chess Records is collapsing. The label that recorded Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf and Etta James, the label that gave Koko her only hit, is dying. And when it dies, Koko is right back where she started. No contract, no label, no clear path forward. 1975. A young producer named Bruce Iglauer signs her to Alligator Records, a small independent blues label in Chicago. It's a risk for both of them. Koko is 46, an age when most women in any industry are considered past their prime. She hasn't had a hit in almost a decade. The audience for traditional blues is shrinking, but Iglauer believes in her, believes that power doesn't diminish with age, that voices like hers don't expire. He releases I Got What It Takes, her first album for Alligator. It earns a Grammy nomination, proves Koko still has what made Wang Dang Doodle work, proves she was never a one-hit wonder, just a woman who wasn't given enough chances. Over the next 34 years, Koko records 9 albums for Alligator, 8 earned Grammy nominations. She wins 29 Blues Music Awards, dominating the female blues category so thoroughly that they eventually name an award after her. She tours relentlessly, 200 concerts a year well into her 70s, becomes the standard by which every other female blues singer is measured. Not because she's the first, there were women before her, but because she's the first to command the same respect, the same stages, the same fees as the men. The first to be called queen without it sounding like consolation. But being queen costs, always costs. No matter how many awards, no matter how much respect, Some prices can't be negotiated. 1988, Tennessee. The tour bus goes off the road. Exactly where it depends on who's telling the story, but the injuries don't lie. Broken shoulder, broken collarbone, 4 broken ribs. Koko survives, but her husband Pops, traveling with her, as he always does, suffers worse. The accident triggers cardiac problems. He never fully recovers, just holds on long enough to make it back to Chicago, March 22, 1989. Robert Pops Taylor, the man who bought Koko bologna sandwiches in Memphis, who brought her to Chicago with 35 cents, who managed her career and believed in her when no one else would, dies from injuries sustained in the crash. Koko is 60 years old. She's been with Pops since she was 18. 42 years, more than half her life. The only person who knew her before she became Koko Taylor, back when she was just Cora trying to escape a sharecropper's future. People wonder what keeps her going after a loss like that. She tells them the truth. The music, the only thing that's ever been entirely hers, the only thing that can't be taken away or left behind or lost to circumstance, the blues. 6 months after Pops dies, Koko walks onto the main stage at the Chicago Blues Festival. Not a small stage, not a tribute set. The main stage, headlining in front of thousands, broken but undefeated, grieving but defiant. She sings like she always sang, like survival depends on it, because for her, it always has. She doesn't slow down, doesn't retire, doesn't concede to age or grief or an industry that keeps telling women they have expiration dates. In 1990, she appears in David Lynch's Wild at Heart, playing herself, singing in a nightclub scene that captures exactly what she is. Undeniable. In 1993, Chicago declares March 3rd Koko Taylor Day. The same city where she once scrubbed floors now honors her as legend. In 1996, she marries Hayes Harris, a tavern owner, starts over at 67. In 1997, the Blues Foundation inducts her into their Hall of Fame. In 1999, she receives the Lifetime Achievement Award. Awards pile up, respect accumulates, but the best measure of Koko's impact isn't hardware, it's influence. Bonnie Raitt credits her. Janis Joplin studied her. Shemekia Copeland says, every woman singing blues now owes Koko a debt. She didn't just sing the blues. She expanded what the blues could be, who could command it, who could be taken seriously. She proved that power in a woman's voice isn't a novelty. It's not a phase. It's not something that needs to be softened or sweetened or made palatable. It just is. But even queens get tired. Even voices that sound immortal live in mortal bodies. May 7th, 2009. The Blues Music Awards in Memphis. The city where Koko was born 80 years earlier, where she picked cotton as an orphan child, where she dreamed of escape. She's back, but transformed. Not Cora anymore, Koko, queen, legend. She wins her 29th Blues Music Award, Traditional Female Blues Artist of the Year. Again, she takes the stage to accept, and because it's Koko, because the audience demands it, because the song never gets old, she performs Wang Dang Doodle, the song that changed everything. The song that's been her signature for 44 years. The song she sung in clubs and theaters and festivals across 5 continents. One more time, with the same power, the same joy, the same defiance she brought to that chess record session in 1965. It's the last time anyone will hear her perform it live. 12 days later, May 19th, Koko undergoes surgery for gastrointestinal bleeding. Complications develop. The kind of complications that happen when bodies have been pushed too hard for too long, when survival has required more than any single person should have to give. 2 weeks later, on June 3rd, 2009, at Northwestern Memorial Hospital in Chicago, Koko Taylor dies, 80 years old. More than 50 of them spent singing the blues. The queen is gone. The music world mourns. Blues artists around the world share tributes. Shemekia Copeland says what everyone is thinking. You can't ask a woman who sings blues now who influenced them and not say Koko Taylor. If she didn't pave the way, we couldn't do this. In 2023, the Library of Congress adds Koko's version of Wang Dang Doodle to the National Recording Registry, recognizing it as culturally significant, worthy of preservation for all time. The song that saved her, the song that defined her, the song that even now people can't hear without thinking of that voice, that power, that presence. But here's what keeps me awake. Here's what the awards and tributes and preservation can't answer. For more than a decade, Koko Taylor had that voice, had that power, had everything that would eventually make her queen of the blues. And nobody recorded it. Nobody thought a woman scrubbing floors was worth the tape, worth the session time, worth the investment. She was 37 by the time Wang Dang Doodle made her famous. 37. Most artists peak earlier. Most voices get discovered younger. Koko spent her 20s and early 30s invisible, singing in clubs for people who weren't even paying to hear her, working jobs that had nothing to do with her gift. What songs didn't we get because of those lost years? What performances never happened because she was too busy surviving to record? What version of Koko Taylor existed before fame, before recognition, before the world finally decided she mattered? We'll never know. That's the cost of being a woman in a world that doesn't hear you until you've already proven you're undeniable. That's the price of being powerful in a body the industry doesn't value until it absolutely has no choice. Koko Taylor became queen of the blues, but she should have been queen earlier. Should have been recording in her 20s. Should have had twice as many albums, twice as many hits, twice as much time to leave her mark. Instead, she got scraps until she forced the world to give her more. She got invisibility until her voice became too loud to ignore. And even then, even after everything she achieved, she never stopped working, never stopped touring, never stopped proving she belonged on stages she should have owned from the beginning. If this story hit you differently than you expected, if you're realizing the legend you knew was just the beginning of something bigger, then subscribe to Legends Underrated. And which version of this artist do you think we never got to hear?